G'day guys, and welcome to another Battleforged Gaming Ultimate Guide. In this tutorial, I will be teaching you how to paint an Astra Militarum Cadian. To begin, we build our model in sub-assemblies, with the body, power fist, and head separate. We also do not want to glue our model to the base, as it will give us better access whilst painting. We're going to prime this model with Zandri Dust. Once your model has been primed, we are going to start by blocking in all the base coats. The first colour we are going to paint is Zandri Dust. This is for the coat as well as the hat, and we are going to apply 2 thin coats. The brush I use throughout this tutorial is the Small Artificer Layer Brush from Citadel. Next, we use Castellan Green, again applying 2 thin coats to the armour panels of the model. We're going to paint the casing of the pistol as well as the power fist and backpack a different green. With the Castellan Green dry, we're going to paint all the fabric areas with Screamer Pink, such as the cuffs and the fabric underneath the belt, again applying 2 thin coats. Moving on to the leathers next, we're going to mix together Mournfang Brown and Rhinox Hide in a 1-to-1 mix. Once again, applying 2 thin coats. With the leathers base coated, we now move on to the plasma pistol, the backpack, and the power fist. Mixing War Flesh and Abaddon Black in a 2-to-1 mix, apply 2 thin coats to these areas. For the gloves and the boots, we are going to use Abaddon Black. Even though this is a dark colour, we are still going to need to apply 2 thin coats. Before we can apply the yellow and the blue to both the pipe and the plasma coils, we're going to base coat these areas with grey cere. Apply 2 thin coats just to make this colour nice and solid for the next step. With the grey cere dried, we're going to take Uriel Yellow to base coat the pipe and Ahriman Blue to base coat the coils of the plasma pistol. To make these colours nice and bright, we want to apply 2, possibly 3 thin coats. With the Ahriman Blue and Uriel Yellow base coated, this is how your model will look. Next, we are going to paint the skin. For this, we're going to mix together Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone in a 1-to-1 mix, applying 2 thin coats. The final 2 base coats we are going to apply are XV88 for any areas that we are going to paint gold, and Standard Mechanicus Grey for any areas that we are going to paint lead belcher. We are going to varnish this model, so this is just in preparation for painting the metallics after varnish. With all the base coats blocked in, we are now going to start working on the details. The first area is going to be the cloak as well as the hat. For this, we're going to thin down Steel Legion Drab with some Lamian Medium. 1 part Steel Legion Drab to 6 parts Lamian Medium. You want to shade the whole area and be relatively fast with this step to prevent some pooling. Mixing together Ujabti Bone and Zandri Dust in a 1-to-1 mix, we're going to work our way around all of the cloak areas and apply a single edge highlight. The next area we're going to focus on is the pink fabric areas. We're going to wash these areas or shade with Nuln Oil. Whilst we're doing this step, we are also going to shade the leather areas with Nuln Oil as well. With the Nuln Oil dry, the next step is to glaze the Screamer Pink back up with a 1-to-1 mix of Screamer Pink and water. The first highlight we are adding to the pink areas is a mix of 2 parts Pink Horror to 1 part Screamer Pink, painting all the raised and high areas of the fabric. The second edge highlight is going to be straight Pink Horror, repeating the previous step and trying to leave some of that colour visible. With the pink areas finished, next we are going to move on to the leathers. The first highlight is going to be Morn Fang Brown. Work your way around the model and pick out all the edges of the leather. The second highlight used for the leather is going to be Deathclaw Brown. This is going to be a broken edge highlight, which is essentially a series of random dots and lines instead of just a solid edge highlight. Moving on to the pistol, power fist and backpack, shade all of these areas with Nuln Oil. With a mix of War Flesh and War Boss Green, 1-to-1, apply your first edge highlight to the pistol, power fist, and backpack. The second edge highlight for all of these areas is going to be Skarsnik Green. The next area we're going to focus on is the armor. Instead of shading the whole armor, we're going to do a focused recess shade using Abaddon Black and Castellan Green in a 1-to-1 mix. The first edge highlight we're going to apply to our armor is a mix of Elysian Green and Castellan Green, 1-to-1. Work your way around the model and pick out all the edges of the armor as well as the high points. The next color we're going to use for our edge highlight is Elysian Green. Again, pick out the same areas, trying to leave some of the previous color visible. Next, we are going to paint the plasma coils of the pistol. Using Baroth Blue, pick out the raised areas of the coils as well as the surrounds of the coils. Mixing 1 part Ahriman Blue with 4 parts water, apply a glaze around the surrounds of the pistol to help add a small amount of OSL. To finish off the glowing plasma coils, we use Blue Horror and add a dot edge highlight to the highest point of each coil. Your plasma should look something like this when it's finished. Now we're going to paint the pipe with a hazard stripe. I've cut down some 1mm tape off tutorial and applied it in the pattern I desire. It is rather finicky, so take your time with this step. We then simply apply Abaddon Black, blocking out the area, and if you make any mistakes, simply use Uriel Yellow to clean up. With the tidy up finished, your pattern should look like this. We are now going to apply some Seraphim Sepia to the whole piping, trying to make it slightly darker at the bottom area of the pipe. To finish the piping off, we are going to apply a screaming skull edge highlight to the areas of the pipe that the light hit. Try and paint this as thin as you can. Moving on to the black leather, the first of 3 edge highlights we are going to apply is a mixture of Eshin Grey and Abaddon Black 1:1. Try and paint all the raised areas and edges of the leather of the boots, as well as the peak of the cap and the gloves. The second edge highlight we're going to use for the black leather is Eshin Grey, painting the same areas as previously, trying to leave some of the Eshin Grey Abaddon first highlight visible. The final edge highlight for the black armour is Dawnstone. Like the previous steps, pick out the same areas, trying to leave some of the second edge highlight visible. Moving on to the face, we're going to thin Reichland Flesh Shade with some Lamian Medium in a 1:1 mix and shade the whole face. Before layering the skin back up, we're going to focus on painting the eyes. I like doing this step now, as it means if we make any mistakes, they are much easier to fix. Using Abaddon Black, we want to paint the sockets of the eyes as neatly as possible. Next, using some Ulithan Grey, we're going to paint the whites of the eyes. We want to paint in the same area that we applied the black, trying to leave some of the black visible as it helps define the eyes. Finally, the hardest part of painting the eyes is the pupils. For this, we use Abaddon Black. The technique I like to use is a series of small lines instead of trying to dot the pupil. With the eyes finished, we are now going to focus on the skin. First, we're going to layer back up with some Cadian Flesh Tone. Repeat the process of layering up, except this time we are using Kislev flesh, trying to leave a small amount of the previous colour visible. To finish off the skin, we are going to mix Kislev flesh and pallid witch flesh in a 1-to-1 mix and pick out the highest points of the face. We haven't finished with the face just yet. We need to paint his glorious moustache. For this step, we're going to base coat it with Dawnstone. With the Dawnstone base coat dry, we are now going to add a series of lines with Administratum Grey, picking out the high points of the moustache. The final step before varnish is to apply a transfer, using some microsol to help it contour to the shoulder pad. With the transfer applied and the varnish completely dried, we are now going to move on to base coating the metallic areas. Any of the areas we had previously painted standard Mechanicus grey, we are now going to base coat with Leadbelcher. This will also include any buttons, buckles or rivets. With the Leadbelcher dried, we are now going to apply a shade of Nuln Oil to the larger areas. Do not worry about trying to shade the small buttons and rivets. To finish off the metallic areas, we're going to take some Stormhost Silver and try and apply a thin edge highlight. Finally, any areas that we had previously painted with XV88, we are now going to base coat with Retributor Armor. To shade the gold areas, we're going to use Reikland Fleshade and apply this to all of the gold areas except for the small trim on the shoulder pads and the cuffs. We are now going to take Retributor Armor once again and layer back up those gold areas just to add a bit of a metallic sheen to it. To finish off the gold areas, we use Stormhost Silver and pick out the highest points of the gold. With that step finished, you have completed your Cadian Castellan model. Stay tuned for more Battleforged Gaming Ultimate tutorials in the future. Hopefully you have found this tutorial helpful, and I'll catch you next time.